The colony of New Terra was a quiet cradle of green hills and warm skies, far removed from Earth's political noise. For 10-year-old Lila Cross, it was paradise. She loved the sunrise over the crystal lakes and the way wildflowers danced along the fence of her family's homestead. That morning, she wore her favorite blue dress and chased a butterfly through the garden, her laughter echoing against the walls of her home. Inside, her father, Jack Cross, watched with a soft smile. His scarred hands gripped a steaming mug of coffee. Once, those hands had taken lives with surgical precision. Now, they held a pruning tool, a sketch pad, and every bit of peace he'd built in the last 7 years. He hadn't told Lila who he really was. To her, he was just Dad, the kind who burned toast but told great bedtime stories. Not a shadow operative. Not the man who disappeared from SEAL rosters during Operation Revenant. That man had died in the field. Jack Cross had buried him deep. And then the sky cracked. The low thrum of engines shattered the stillness as Imperial dropships roared over the hills, descending like metal vultures. Alarms didn't blare. The colony had no defense systems. It wasn't supposed to need them. Earth and the Galactic Empire had signed a peace accord. There was supposed to be trust. But trust meant nothing to Vec Dralos, the Imperial officer leading the patrol. He stood at the head of the unit as they stormed the colony, searching for a stolen artifact, a crystalline shard supposedly linked to ancient galactic technology. He didn't care that humans didn't even know it existed. He wanted a target, and he wanted obedience. The Cross home was fourth on the list. Jack heard the boots before he saw them. He moved on instinct, slipping behind a support beam, silently reaching into the false drawer by the fireplace. But Lila was already outside, frozen in place as 4 armored soldiers marched toward her. "Identify your designation, local," one barked. Lila blinked. I'm Lila." A pause. Then a scanner beeped. One soldier, younger, nervous, snapped his rifle toward her. "That's the girl from the ping." "What ping?" another said. "She fits the bio-signature match." "The shard. That's impossible." Jack's voice rang like steel behind them. They turned. Too late. Jack tackled the nearest soldier and wrenched the weapon from his grip, slamming the butt into the soldier's throat. The others opened fire. One plasma bolt struck Jack's shoulder, another scorched the wall, and one hit Lila. She fell, soundlessly, eyes wide in surprise. Everything stopped. The soldiers froze. Even the wind halted, the garden still. Jack looked down at his daughter. A thin wisp of smoke rose from her chest. Her dress was burned through. She wasn't moving. The world tilted, then collapsed. Jack let out a sound that wasn't a scream. It was something deeper, primeval. A war cry birthed in agony. They tried to restrain him. 2 soldiers broke fingers trying. The third screamed before Jack snapped his jaw shut like a trap. It took a stun grenade to finally bring him down. When he awoke, they were gone. Lila's body was covered in a silver emergency blanket, but it didn't hide the blood. A message blinked red on his datapad. Imperial notice. Unintentional civilian casualty. Compensation pending review. Incident sealed under Article 47. He didn't read the rest. Instead, he sat beside her, took her hand in his, and whispered, "I'm sorry, baby girl." That night, he buried her beneath the moonflowers they'd planted together. Then, in the silence, Jack Cross stood up. His eyes were hollow, but his voice was full of purpose. "I warned them once. They didn't listen." He turned back toward the house, toward the shed he hadn't opened in years, toward the war. 3 days after Lila's funeral, Jack Cross boarded a transport ship bound for Earth. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't look back. The other passengers, miners, traders, and settlers, kept their distance. There was something in his eyes, a storm, a promise. Earth hadn't changed. The air was thick with politics, towering structures, and tension. The Galactic Empire's embassy stood like a scar across the skyline, a daily reminder that humanity was no longer alone and not in control. Jack didn't go to the embassy. He went underground. Beneath an abandoned steel refinery on the outskirts of Colorado lay a forgotten chamber sealed by biometric locks and buried authorization codes. He hadn't been here since Project Revenant was decommissioned. The system scanned his retina, recognized the ghost, and opened with a hiss. Inside was a small vault, and within it, hell in a crate. Jack opened the casing and stared at the contents. Matte black armor reinforced with adaptive plating, a stealth harness laced with fiber-optic camo, an old seal-issue rail rifle, and a sidearm he once named Judgment. He suited up in silence. No ceremony, just ritual. Once the armor sealed around his body, it whispered back to life. Revenant systems online. Welcome, Operator, Cross J. Mission parameters, undefined. Vengeance protocol, active. His body adjusted instantly. Muscle memory returned like breath in his lungs. The pain in his shoulder was gone, numbed by the suit's neural dampeners. His heartbeat synced to the AI's rhythm. He was no longer just a man. He was a relic of war. He was the ghost they buried. And now he walked again. But even a ghost needs allies. Jack made contact through encrypted channels used only by former Spec Ops veterans. One ping came back. Rex Novak, ex-SEAL, demolitions expert, dishonorably discharged for disobeying a direct order to not save civilians during the siege of Orpheon. In Jack's book, that made him the only kind of man worth trusting. They met in a burned-out bar in Istanbul, where surveillance drones didn't work and old soldiers came to drink without being seen. "You're a long way from your garden, Cross," Rex said, raising a glass. "They killed my daughter." Rex's smirk died. Jack placed a data chip on the table. It contained sensor logs, timestamps, facial recognition. The full record of Vec Dralos, the imperial officer responsible. "He's on Etherian Prime," Jack said coldly. "Untouchable, surrounded by fleets, cameras, and firewalls." Rex looked at the chip, then back at Jack. "And you want to break into the Empire's capital, assassinate a high-ranking officer, and probably start a war?" "No," Jack said. "I want to send a message. The kind they'll never forget." Rex drained his drink and stood. "Well, why didn't you say so sooner?" They went dark after that. No signals, no transmissions, no trails. Jack's old contacts supplied what they needed. A cloaked recon ship nicknamed Widow, stolen Empire credentials, and a virus designed to override Imperial broadcasting systems. Jack had 3 goals. 1. Infiltrate Etherian Prime. 2. Make Dralos confess on record. 3. Burn down the lie that hid Lila's death. They launched from a dead moon in the outer rings. Widow shimmered into nothing as its cloak engaged. No one saw them leave. No one saw them coming. Jack sat in the co-pilot seat, watching the stars drift by like ghosts. He held a small locket in his glove hand. "Lila's." "I tried to stay out," he whispered. "I really did." Rex didn't say anything. He just checked the ship's weapon systems. "Once we start this," he finally said, "there's no going back." Jack didn't flinch. There's nothing to go back to. Etherian Prime was the crown jewel of the Galactic Empire. A planet-wide city wrapped in steel and arrogance, protected by 6 orbital defense grids and an atmosphere choked with scanner drones. Nothing unauthorized entered. Nothing left without permission. Except tonight. The cloaked ship Widow punched through the outer layer at midnight, riding in the shadow of an Empire cargo hauler. Jack Cross sat in the shadows of the cockpit, helmet on, visor down, watching with predator focus. "Navigation lock acquired," Rex said, dropping in the industrial zone. "From there, it's all you, brother." Jack nodded once. "Keep the ship hot." They landed in District 47, a labyrinth of old warehouses and data towers where no Imperial dignitary ever stepped foot. Jack moved like a ghost through the alleyways, his suit absorbing light, bending sound. He was invisible, a myth, a nightmare just beginning. Dralos was attending a private gala atop the Spire of Rule, celebrating his promotion to Sector Marshal. He'd ordered the death of a child and been rewarded for it. The Empire never cared about humans. Just power. Jack scaled the tower. Not through doors. Up the side. Grapples. Magnetic fingers. 0G anchor boosts. He rose like a shadow, bypassing every security measure by going where no soldier would think to look from below the sky. At level 86, he slipped through a maintenance shaft and entered the control room of the tower's broadcast grid. The operator inside never saw the stun dart hit him. Jack inserted Rex's virus. System override, broadcasting on all Imperial channels. Recording armed. Live feed active. He made his way to the main hall. Red carpet, crystal chandeliers, alien diplomats laughing over blood wine. At the center stood Vec Dralos, adorned in a silver cape, surrounded by guards. Jack stepped through the glass skylight. Boom! Smoke exploded. Lights flickered. Panic erupted. And then silence, as the smoke cleared and Jack stood in the middle of the ballroom. Black armor, glowing visor, rifle raised. Vec Dralos, Jack said, voice amplified, cold as the void. You murdered my daughter. The guards raised weapons. Too slow. Jack moved like a storm. One flashbang. 2 guard down. A sweep kick. Precision fire. Kneecaps shattered. Arms broken. 3 more down. Only Dralos remained, whimpering, crawling backward, blood on his polished boots. Who sent you? He choked. Jack grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the floor. You did. The day you pulled the trigger. You're insane. Jack pointed to the blinking red light above. You're live across the galaxy. Every system. Every colony. Speak. Dralos froze. Tell them what you did, Jack said, or I make you scream it. And Dralos broke. The coward always do. He confessed everything. The unauthorized raid. The firing on civilians. The child's death. The cover-up. His reward. Jack let the feed run another 5 seconds. Then cut it. The whole hall stared. Some too shocked to move. Others trembling. Jack turned to leave. Then the alarms wailed. Elite guards poured in, black-clad Imperials with heavy weapons. Jack knew there would be no sneaking out. That wasn't the point. It was time for the Empire to feel fear. The battle raged through 5 floors. Jack used it all. Smoke, pulse mines, rail bursts, hand-to-hand destruction. Walls shattered. Ceilings cracked. At one point, he dropped 3 floors by blasting the ground beneath him just to avoid being flanked. Rex coordinated the extraction through Widow's stealth uplink, guiding him toward the roof. 60 seconds, Rex said over comms. Whole damn garrison's on its way. Jack reached the roof just as Widow roared into view. A sleek shadow cutting through the night. He dove into the cargo bay. The ramp sealed. The ship vanished into the clouds. Behind them, fire and chaos consumed the spire of rule. Back on the ship, Jack sat in silence. Rex looked back from the cockpit. You pulled it off, Rex said. Whole empires bleeding from the eyes. Even some of their own people are marching in the streets. Jack stared at the screen, replays of the broadcast flooding human and neutral channels. Protests, outrage, cracks in the Empire's foundation. But Jack wasn't smiling. This doesn't bring her back. No, Rex said, nodding. But it'll make damn sure they never forget her. Jack closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring consequences. But tonight, justice had a name. The day after the broadcast, the galaxy burned. Not from fire, but from truth. Across neutral systems and human colonies, holoscreens replayed the confession of Vec Dralos on loop. The footage of a sobbing Imperial officer admitting to the murder of a human child had ignited something far more dangerous than weapons: righteous fury. The Galactic Council scrambled to control the narrative. They declared Jack Cross a terrorist, his broadcast an act of interstellar treason. But it was too late. Even their own species questioned them. Uprisings sparked on fringe worlds. Whispers turned to roars. And in the heart of the Empire, the people began to ask, if this could happen to a child, what else had they been lied about? Back on Earth, Jack Cross stepped out of the shadows for the last time. He wore civilian clothes now. No armor, no rifle, just a dark coat and tired eyes. He stood at Lila's grave, nestled beneath a flowering tree on the edge of New Terra's hills. He laid a single item on the grave, his sealed badge, tarnished and weathered. She's safe now, he whispered, and they'll never forget why. A quiet wind passed through the leaves, almost like a breath of relief. His peace lasted 3 hours. Then the sensor screamed. Above New Terra, the sky darkened as an Imperial dreadnought task force exited hyperspace. 5 capital ships, dozens of destroyers. They weren't here to talk. The broadcast had humiliated the Empire. Now they wanted blood. Human blood. Earth Command scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The fleet was already charging weapons. But Jack Cross wasn't alone. As the dreadnoughts advanced, hundreds of civilian freighters and private vessels surged forward, forming a living wall between the Empire and New Terra. They weren't military. They were veterans, miners, farmers, old soldiers, anyone with a ship and a spine. Rex's voice cut through open comms. You come for one of us, you deal with all of us. The Empire hesitated, but only for a moment. A single dreadnought opened fire. It was a mistake. Rex had been waiting. From behind the moon, Widow surged forward, coated in stealth tech, overcharged with a self-made fusion payload. He flew it straight into the dreadnought's core. The explosion split the sky in half. The rest of the human fleet moved in with vengeance. EMP bursts, fusion torpedoes, kamikaze drones. It was chaos, organized, unrelenting chaos. The kind Jack had once taught in black ops simulations. Now was real. One dreadnought fell, then another. The Empire pulled back, not defeated, but shaken. The cost of silencing Jack Cross had proven far steeper than they'd ever expected. They retreated. No peace offering, no apology, just silence. But the message had been carved in blood and metal. 2 weeks later, Jack Cross vanished. Some said he was taken into the shadows by Earth's Black Ops again. Others believed he walked into the forest and never came out. The truth was simpler. He was finished. His vengeance was never about war. It was never about politics. It was about one girl and making sure the galaxy knew her life mattered. On Earth, a small statue was erected in New Terra's central square. It showed a girl laughing, reaching up toward the sky. At its base, a plaque read, "Underscore Lila Cross, a child of peace." Her light sparked a fire the Empire couldn't extinguish. Underscore. Every year after, on the day of the broadcast, humans across the stars lit a candle and whispered her name. And though Jack Cross was never seen again, parents would tell their children, if you ever feel afraid, remember, there's a man out there who moved stars for his daughter. And because of him, the galaxy changed.